some of the scout stuff. You see some of the things like he can't do like, okay, if you stop his first rush, he needs better. His counters have to get better. Or, a big strong tackle can, we'll give him issues at the line of scrimmage in the NFL. And a bunch of different little dorky stuff like that. And that brought him down the draft board, though. And so, also to be fair, I mean, Dylan Stewart and Kyle Kennard complement each other well because if you doubled one, the other was going to eat.
Yeah.
But I thought that was a reach to draft Sanders that high. He liked Sanders, but he thought Sanders, that was a little high to draft TJ Sanders. I saw a lot of things where Sanders was a second-round guy, a second or third-round dude. So seeing him go in the second round, I think Mel thought he was more of a late second-round guy or early third. But, I love the fact that TJ Sanders got to go where he went. And, again, these guys, like you said, all hit some pretty good landing spots.
Yeah, and look, that is and the Bills GM talked about a little bit, him kind of being maybe a three-technique kind of guy playing next to Ed Oliver. They got our guy, Deion Walker, out of Kentucky, just to be another, massive unit on the inside of that defense who's maybe more of that one-technique guy. And TJ's kind of looked at for more athleticism, being able to cover things. We know his ability to get after the quarterback. And, again, he had an opportunity to go up there and earn yourself some playing time. Now, hopefully he can deal with the cold because it's going to get very cold up there.
You think it's a little colder there than South Carolina?
I think so. I don't know if TJ's ever seen 0 degrees in his life.
TJ, how much black ice have you ever seen, my friend?
Well,
and snow.
I will say, I'm less worried about bigger guys in the cold because bigger guys tend to like cold weather anyway. If this was, I don't know, Rocket Sanders or somebody going up there to Buffalo, I'd be like, all right, man, you might want to bundle up a little bit.
I'm going to tell you something, and you can ask our boy Sam from WIS. Upstate New York cold is a whole different kind of
that's
cold,
some bone-chilling cold.
That stuff goes through your insides. It's insane.
Makes those hits 10 times worse.
And so, but you look at it with Ed Oliver, you get Walker from Kentucky, who, by the way, you talk about a guy coming into the season was looked at as a possible first-round pick and fell to, the fourth round?
Yeah.
Walker.
Apparently he was injured.
He was injured
this past year.
And he didn't flash as much as he did the year before. But watching him, I remember watching him play a couple years ago against South Carolina, and it was almost like watching the movie Blind Side.
Yeah.
He's just picking up dudes and just throwing guys all over the place.
The physical presence of him alone. Same thing with our guy, I forget his name, down in Florida. We're number 21. He went to the Bucks, I think.
Oh, yeah, I'm blanking. I know what you're talking about.
Like, there are big guys and there's big guys.
Ginormous human beings.
Yeah.
All right, so Nick Emmanwori goes to a really nice spot in Seattle where he's going to get his opportunities. They need safety help. Let's get cut 4 here, Dave, real quick. Oh, well, look at this. Here's Mike McDonald talking about Nick Emmanwori and comparing him to Cam Chancellor and also the Ravens safety, Kyle Hamilton. Again, cut 4.
I think the physicality of Cam is, you have such a respect for Cam. He's just a unicorn of a player in NFL history for us. Legion of Boom, it's hard. He can't like he's just so unique, and Kyle's the same way. And I think what we found with Kyle is that the system allows for us to get multiple safeties on the field, and also be in the slot and with kind of like enhanced coverage responsibilities, and he can affect the game that way, kind of at the second level while training at the third level, and gives us some depth at the safety room, guys that we really love that are currently on the roster, and then to be able to affect the game early on in his career too as he starts to develop. But same story with Nick, just coming in throughout the process, getting to know us on his visit really helped out, buying into the vision that we have for him, and it's going to be really fun to work with him when he gets here next week.
And Nick's going to use opportunities in Seattle. And let's get this real quick, Dave. Cut 7. Emmanwori getting the call that he was drafted by the Seattle Seahawks. Cut 7, Dave.
Hello?
Nick.
What's going on?
Hey, Todd Bruno, the Seahawks, man. How you doing?
Doing good.
Hey, I just want to know, when you came up here on your visits, did you enjoy your visit up here?
Yeah, it was a good visit.
Well, you're about to be a permanent resident, my man. We're drafting you right here. We just made a trade up. You're going to be a Seattle Seahawk.
Sure, appreciate that.
Are you sure about that? You don't sound it.
Yeah, I'm excited.
All right, well, let me give you the chance. You're a Seattle Seahawks now, Nick. Let's get excited.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, Yeah, thank you.
You excited, brother?
I'm excited.
Yeah, we're freaking jacked, man.
It is. It's funny because I got the same thing. Going, Nick, you just got drafted
come on, man.
in the second round.
Maybe it's the shock of it all,
It could be.
but it's like,
could be.
come on, man, let's go. Your
Kick it,
dream's
buddy.
coming true. Let's
Kick it,
go.
dude. Let's go. Come on, man. But like I said, we talked about this when Malachi Starks got drafted.
Yeah.
By the Ravens. Sometimes it's just about a guy's personality that fits the type of culture and team you have.
Yeah.
And some guys fit better and and sometimes teams value that more than others, right? And like Malachi Starks, we were watching, we and I were talking about it. Dude came out in his football gear.
Yes.
And he's ready to play. He's got eye black on and everything. I mean, my man was ready to roll. And Nick is just more of he's not that much of a out there in your face kind of guy.
Sure.
And you heard it right there, though.
Yeah.
Hey, we're going to draft you.
Again,
Okay.
we kind of felt like Malachi Starks maybe kind of fit what the culture of the Ravens was. And not saying that Emori couldn't have gone there and be successful, but in a way, and you heard it from Mike McDonald there, making comparisons to obviously the great Cam Chancellor from the Legion of Boom and Kyle Hamilton, somebody he just worked with when he was the DC in Baltimore, fits that exact type of mold. And again, they kind of use that 3 safety set with Julian Love and Kobe Bryant. So he's going to have his opportunity to be on the field a lot this year.
And just, and the way the board played itself out, the opportunities that seemed like where Nick could go in the first round, they all dried up after the Ravens.
Yes.
And even before the Ravens, because
It was like the Bills were the only other one at the back end that could have been a possibility.
and once you saw they had corners to be able to draft, like Harrison was, I mean, that was an easy one. All right, halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head. We'll come back just in case you just woke up. We'll get you caught up with some of the things going on in the world of sports right here on The Game. Oh, just in case you just woke up, this story just popped. This is fun. All right, so Brandon Beane, the Buffalo Bill GM, is going to do a radio hit this morning on the sports talk station in Buffalo, WGR. Iconic sports talk station. WGR has been around forever. And it's the local radio show, is the Jeremy and Joe show. Well, Beane is on hold while those guys are talking. And usually, like we do it here, you put a guy on hold for a minute or two, he gets to hear the show, right?
Sure.
So Brandon Beane's hearing a couple minutes of the show while he's on hold. And then during that, one of the hosts was talking about how the Bills didn't draft a wide receiver earlier than the 7th round. So Beane's hearing this, and Beane pops on, and of course they go, "Hey man, he asked about the business of his draft weekend." It's kind of like being light-hearted to start the interview.
To introduce them, we often do that.
Beane responds by saying he was listening to the discussion before he came on the radio show, and that it sounds like 2018 all over again with you guys. And then Beane went off. You guys were, I won't say it. Hold your ears if the kids are around. Well, you guys were bitching in 2018 about Josh Allen. You guys wanted Josh Rosen. And now you guys are bitching about we didn't get a receiver. We just scored 30 points in a row for 8 straight games. A year ago, I get you guys asking why we didn't have receivers. I don't understand it now. You just saw us lead the league in points. When you had the postseason, no one scored more points than the Buffalo Bills, including the Super Bowl champions. So you just saw us do that without Stephon Diggs, with the same group. How is this group not better than last year's group? Our job is to score points and win games. Where do you need to be better? We need to be better on defense. That's what we did. So I get you. You have a show. You have something to bitch about. How about whining and complaining about wide receivers? I'm sorry, it's one of the dumbest arguments I've ever heard. And then he said this. He goes, "Look, guys, I'm going to paraphrase this one. This isn't fantasy football. You can't have everything. You can't have Pro Bowl wide receivers, Pro Bowl offensive line, Pro Bowl quarterback, 3 great running backs. You got to pick. I'd love to play fantasy football, but there's one football." And he goes, "I just don't understand your narrative." And it's...
Yikes.
I mean, look, I get him, because even like one of the hosts said, that you didn't hear the whole show, you just heard a piece of the conversation. But I get Brandon Beane, and you look, usually you just let all that stuff go, right? And you go in and do the interview.
Sure.
But I can see Brandon Beane on hold. You're talking about wide receiver? And bro, we led the league in points. Our defense has been a sieve. We lost last year because our defense wasn't as good as it used to be.
Right.
We need defensive players. And he just was like, "I can't listen to this nonsense. I'm sorry. I just can't do it." And I wonder when he hung up, did he do this? Told him. Or did he do this? Why'd I do that?
Because, again, this is going to go viral.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's understandable to be upset by what he heard, but like you said, he didn't hear the entire conversation and whatever the points they were making before that is. And that's something, again, you're on there to talk about your draft weekend, and that's something you can address to start off with and then get in the interview without having to go angry
scorched earth,
rant.
man.
Because again, the people that do this, that are in the higher positions, GMs, presidents, coaches, they never come out looking good in this kind of thing, right?
And that's why you just don't do it. And at the end, he said, like I said the other day, the best player on the board, the best player on the board is a receiver. I promise you we would have taken them. But that's not how we valued it. And look, that's what I always say to people. This thing is a lot about your board and your value more than your need. The old joke is if you draft by need as a GM, eventually you're going to need a job.
Sure.
You don't draft by need. You draft by value, and you match your value with your need. And so the Bills are sticking to their board. They had no wide receiver they valued high enough when they were drafting to draft a wide receiver in that spot. That's what. And to the point of Brandon Beane, the way the board shook out is where they drafted. And two, to be honest with you, Tyler, if they had, let's say, T.J. Sanders, because they drafted T.J. Sanders.
Yep.
Let's say they had T.J. Sanders and a receiver around the same grade on their board. You know who they're taking? The need now.
Yeah.
And the need is interior defensive line. So that's when they do need. When the thing's about even on the board, they're going to go need. And in their mind, on their board, the value and the need match defense all the way through. And that's just what they do. So to me, look, if I'm the GM on the, and it's easy for me to say this, I'm not going to do that, scorched earth, because to your point, you lose, right?
Yeah.
Even if you're right, you lose. It doesn't matter. So you just go, you get to, and you almost go, hey, I had a good weekend, blah, 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 and then maybe joke about it with them. Have a little fun with them with it.
Sure.
Go, hey, by the way, guys, I heard you talk about the receiver thing. Real quick, 'cause I forget, who led the league in points last year? Bills. Yeah, that's right. How many games in a row did we score? 30. Yeah. And you guys were yelling at our receivers last year in the offseason too, right? Yeah. Just want to double check with you guys. What else you got?
Yeah, exactly.
Have a little fun with it. Don't get so, because you come off even and look, Brandon Beane is right.
He is.
But it's not
wrong.
about being right.
It comes off like you're insecure.
Yeah,
right?
it comes off. Anyone else too? It comes off like you care what a couple of radio goofs think about your draft.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just the way I look at it. It's like, come on. I mean, these are radio guys. It's true. I mean, you have an opinion. You're doing a show. Blah 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 blah. If you're Brandon Beane, you can't get caught up in all that nonsense. You just gotta roll. You're the GM. I say this about players all the time. You're the GM. Real quick when you're listening, you're getting all like annoyed.
Mm-hmm.
Get your phone out. We all have a banking app, right? Go to your banking app and look at your bank account.
Count the commas.
Exactly. You know what you do then? You go like this.
I can get through this 10-minute interview.
I can do 10 minutes with these two goobers, and if they ask me about wide receivers, I'll have fun with them.
Yeah.
Just don't get so defensive about it, because then you are the one that looks bad. All right, which, just in case you just woke up, that was a fun story. Halftime show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head on the game. Also, you know what's so funny? When you get the stink of a bad owner out of your organization, for some reason, the sports gods start to smile at you.
Yep.
And the stink of Daniel Snyder, and that was a big stink. You had to fumigate D.C. after Daniel Snyder left. The stink of Daniel Snyder, getting that out of the Washington Commanders. Please change the nickname. The Washington Commanders organization. First of all, drafting Jalen Daniels was a huge home run.
Mm-hmm.
You got the NFC Championship game. And now, Daniel Snyder was pushing to try to get a stadium in D.C. And because Daniel Snyder was so hated by the political folks in D.C., they were like, go build it in Afghanistan. Now, new ownership. Guess what's going to happen?
New stadium.
New stadium in D.C.
And it's the RFK site, right?
And the old RFK site where the Redskins had so much success.
Yep.
Where they went to Super Bowls, won Super Bowls. They used to have those dudes that dressed up like hogs and dresses and all that stuff, where they had the waiting list for season tickets. They're going to build it on that site.
You're telling me FedEx Field isn't up to code?
FedEx Field.
Telling me raining toilet water on your fans isn't ideal?
I'm going to tell you, I've never been there. I know people who covered the Washington football team. They said it was the biggest dump they'd ever been to in their life, pretty much. And yeah, it was a dump. All right, so you get a new stadium in D.C. It's going to be $3 billion. By the way, now there's some political people pushing back, saying, wait a minute,
Sure.
How much taxpayer money do you want to build this billionaire Josh Hayes? So anyway, all right. Not just in case you just woke up, let's flip back to South Carolina real quick. Again, 5 guys drafted all on the defense in the first 4 rounds. Want to grab Dave Adair. We'll go snag this, buddy. Well, since we talked about Brandon Beane, the Bills GM, let's take cut 5, Dave. Brandon Beane talking about T.J. Sanders. Again, that's cut 5, Dave.
TJ, a guy with obviously plays D tackle, probably a 3-tech first, inside rush. For us, kind of, he can play 1. I would say his primary is 3, so he'd go 3 to 1. But we like the idea of adding another inside rusher, another guy to pair with Ed on clear passing downs. But we could still play him at 1 if we wanted to. I would just say position 1 would be a 3-tech.
We know, watching T.J. Sanders, he can rush the passer.
Mm-hmm.
That was his calling card here at South Carolina. He's got that. If you're an interior defensive lineman, you can rush the passer. You're going to be loved by the NFL.
Sure.
And so you heard it there. We'll put him in there. Mostly start with the passing situations, and we'll see if we can develop him into a more complete, multi-down type of player. But right now, Old TJ's going to get to rush the quarterback and go at him.
He's going to get an opportunity. Again, good organization, and we'll see what happens.
One of the best organizations in the NFL. Absolutely. In Buffalo. Just really cold, TJ. Take a coat. Take lots of coats. Lots of coats. Firehouse Sub text the hours next, 803-404-6100 on the halftime show. David Ayer, Tyler Head, Terry Ford on the game. Firehouse Sub text the hour, 803-404-6100 on the halftime show. Well, the text line has been on fire lately. What do you got there?
Oh, it has. Nameless Texter says, my girl lost her debit card this weekend. Thank God it's Monday because we couldn't get it activated until today.
No, yeah, it's true.
I asked if they checked the trash.
I was curious.
I mean,
Go look in the trash.
Look in the trash.
You know, I think, right, when in doubt, look in the trash. For anything now. If you
I guess
lose
so.
anything in the house, just go look in the trash.
But like when she was telling me, oh, it might be in the trash, my thought process of like, I would never, first of all, I'm very particular about where my card is. But like, I can never think about just like casually throwing my card in the trash. Like, I can't put myself in that situation.
I'm going to tell you, I'm so paranoid about my credit cards.
Oh, I am too.
I'm nuts paranoid.
I check my account every single day.
Yeah, I look, you know, like if I go buy something and I use my card, you know, you put the card in the stupid little terminal thing and take it. I always double check to make sure it's in my wallet before I put my wallet away.
Yep.
I don't leave my girlfriend. I don't get it. She'll take it and just throw it like in her, like, and she doesn't have like a real big purse. She has a little small because she hates big purses.
Yeah.
She got this little small thing and she just throws it in there. Or she'll throw it in the passenger seat of her car. I'm like, what the hell are you doing? That's your debit card. What are you, insane?
Yep.
Or she'll look at me and she'll do that. She'll throw it around over and she'll come downstairs every now and then and go, you see my card? And I'm like, did you check, I don't know, the front seat of your car? Did you where else have you thrown it lately? Or, I mean, she's so loose with her credit cards.
Yeah.
It's insane to me.
I couldn't.
I couldn't do it either, and I'm not as what I mean. You're whacked out about a lot of little things.
Sure.
I'm really not when it comes to my like credit
I think
cards and
that's
debit
called
cards.
OCD.
I like it calling you whacked out. I think it's
Yeah.
better, but I am like that about my credit cards
Yeah.
because that's my money.
Sure.
I don't have much. Thanks to my children, I don't have much.
You don't want somebody to steal what little you have.
I've always said, please take my identity. Someone steal my identity so I can have a new one.
They'd look at you like, man, I was going to take it, but I felt bad for you.
You know how mad someone would be? All of a sudden I get a phone call. Hey, Bub, I was online. I stole your identity. You can have it back. Your identity stinks. You're broke. What are you working, radio? Yeah, pretty much. You caught me. So, yeah, I'm all for someone but they have to keep it. They can't give it back.
Sure.
Once they take it, I get a new one. But, yeah, I was like, oh, jeez. So, yeah, I'm like you. I am so, like, anal about credit cards and debit cards.
Yep.
That just,
So-
nope.
So we'll see if she learned her lesson this time.
You know, my daughter's kind of the same way, like my girlfriend. My daughter was like, she's driving down the road because, you know, she's going to University of Colorado, and she's on the phone with me, and she's like, Dad, what? Bleep, 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 bleep. What? I can't find my debit card. I go, what do you mean? I can't find my debit card. I go, well, I just used it sometime today. I don't know what I did with it. It's not my wallet, my purse. Where could it be? What have you done? I don't know. She turns around to go back to wherever she was. Halfway, she goes, wait a minute. She pulls over. Dad, I found it. Where? It was under my seat.
That's where it goes.
Yeah, I would say the first place you should put it is under
That's where I put mine.
seat.
Yeah.
I'm with you. I don't get it, man.
I don't either.
I don't
But
get
again,
it.
A lesson learned.
Yeah, Now, when I was younger, I lost keys. I was good at that. I was so bad. My dad got to the point where he put a house key in the bushes in the backyard for me because I
Really?
lose my keys.
Wow.
Yeah, I was different mindset back in those days.
He was
Keys were not important to me.
I was going to say he was risking somebody breaking into y'all's house
Uh-huh.
just to be able to care for your frivolous keys.
Well, it's not like Baltimore had a lot of crime.
Whatever you say.
We appreciate the text like always, 803-404-61.
I'm sure you lived in the gated community back then, right?
Absolutely. Oh, cold, yes, we did. You know, I'd sit on the porch eating Grey Poupon, Tyler, all day long. Me and father. Then we take the family helicopter off to Martha's Vineyard.
Yep.
You buying any of that?
Nope. I'm sure there's one neighborhood in Baltimore like that, but that's probably about it.
It's not mine. That was for sure. Not mine. Oh, anyway. All right. No, we have a gay community. They would put up the invisible dog fencing around the yard so kids couldn't
they
get out.
put the gates up so you couldn't get in. They specifically you and people like you.
Exactly. Our kind. We don't want them kind here. Oh, it's one of them. All right. We appreciate the texting, 803-404-6100, like always. We're going to get you some stuff in the 1 o'clock hour because we yap nothing but football. We played Janicki Manwari's call from the Seattle Seahawks. The Demetrius Knight call is fantastic. And if you've seen the video, it's even better. But you can hear it in the audio in his voice.
Yep.
He can't talk. He's so emotional at the moment, he just really can't talk. And it is. You just feel really good for him. We'll get you some stuff on TJ Sanders' call, Kyle Kennard's call, also Tonka Hemingway in the 1 o'clock hour. We haven't gotten to it yet. We're going to get to the whole Shedeur Sanders thing
Fiasco.
in the 1 o'clock hour. Yeah, fiasco. The ridiculousness of what went on for 3 days and the things that were said about it by people who really don't pay attention to any of this stuff was pretty funny and sad all at the same time. And the fact that this draft had really no juice, hardly at all.
I think that fanned the flames.
This really made it worse. So we'll get into that as well in the 1 o'clock hours. We talk nothing but football, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. It's a halftime show. He's Tyler Head. I'm Terry Ford. That was David Dare a few minutes ago celebrating his divorce. All right, we go to 3 here on the game. Halftime show as we just cook a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by our buds at Atlantic Windows and Doors. Tyler Head, Terry Ford, David Arago. Hit some sound here, Dave. Get your thumb ready there on the old mouse. South Carolina, of course, a good draft. 2 days for South Carolina. 5 players taken the first 2 days. No one on day. Well, yeah, after Kennard and Hemingway in the 4th round, it was done.
Yep, that was it.
No one else. But a good day. Again, five guys off your defense gets drafted. That's a good day. We played you Nick Ebenwarry's call from the Seattle Seahawks. We're going to take cut 8, Dave. We'll get our buddy Knight here, his call from the Cincinnati Bengals. Again, cut 8, Dave.
Hello?
Demetrius,
Yes, sir.
this is Zach Taylor with the Cincinnati Bengals.
What's going on, Coach?
We're picking you right now, man.
I appreciate you, Coach.
Ready?
Yes, sir.
Awesome, man.
Yes, sir.
Fired up for you. Unbelievable things about you. Loved you during this process. You're going to make a huge impact for us. I'm fired up.
Yes, sir. You got a good one, Coach. You got a good one,
I
Coach.
know we did. I know we did. All right, man. Hey, enjoy the family. We're going to call you back here shortly, okay?
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, Coach.
All right, Demetrius.
Coach, I got to go. I got diapers to change, Coach. I got diapers to change. I got the toilets backed up.
By the way, did you see his child be terrified when everybody jumped up and screamed?
Yes.
I don't think he was expecting that.
Yeah, I mean, man, you just hear it. You hear it in his voice, and if you get a chance to watch it, go online and watch it. It's
and look, there's hundreds of these videos out there from just about every draft pick, but I didn't see one better than that over the weekend.
because you just from the get go of the call, you could hear it in his voice. He was just like,
And this 2 years ago, this guy was driving Uber Eats to make ends meet, and now he's got a multi-million-dollar contract as a second-round draft pick.
Yeah, it's just you like I said in the first hour of the show, if you're not happy for a guy like Demetrius Knight, then I feel bad for you.
Yeah.
It's just a great story, and he's going to fit in well there. Again, he's going to get opportunity to play. They need help on defense. They need cheap rookie contract talent on defense, guys that they have under team control that aren't going to be making a ton of money against the cap because right now they can't afford it. I mean, Trey Hendrickson at some point will get dealt most likely their edge because he wants more money and they can't give it to him.
And they got two very quality linebackers in Demetrius Knight and Barrett Carter from Clemson as well to kind of be there in the middle, play alongside Logan Wilson. And again, like you said, hopefully end up being quality guys for the next couple of years while still in their rookie deals.
Yeah, and then you see where you go from there. But if you're playing for your second contract, that's what all these guys are doing. So if you're Demetrius Knight, you go there and you play really well, and you do the things that they hope you're going to be able to do. If Cincinnati isn't going to pay you, someone else is. Now, again, playing off-ball linebacker, inside linebacker, whatever you want to call it, you're not breaking the bank like you are if you're an edge pass rusher or a left tackle or obviously a quarterback or a receiver. But you can do okay for yourself.
You're not going to have to drive Uber Eats for that one.
No, I think the Uber Eats days are over. Unless you just want to do it for fun.
I say unless you just enjoyed it.
in your like Beamer or whatever, driving around doing Uber Eats.
Which navigating the roads of Charlotte after you just played a 3.5-hour football game, doing that, probably not the most fun
He's still
thing
in
in
his
the world.
uniform and pads, just driving around
he's
delivering
sweaty,
stuff.
He's dirty. Who's that guy that brought me my McDonald's earlier?
He was wearing like a football uniform. It was really weird. He had a helmet on.
Do you think there was at least one person that heard the story of D Knight or whatever and is like, I think that's the guy that brought me Zaxby's the other, when he was here in Charlotte.
There's a guy that's going to make that up.
Probably. Yeah. And listen, I told him, I said, listen, man, you keep following those dreams. One day you're going to be a draft pick.
Appreciate you bringing me a Big Mac value meal. Thanks, dude. How about a hug?
There's probably a lot of people laying claim to that. Like, listen, I told him, I believed in him, and I thought he was going to accomplish his dreams. Just keep grinding.
That's right.
I said, you know what? Enter the transfer portal. Go to a place like South Carolina. Prove yourself.
That's right. Why don't we'll do some drills out my front yard after I eat my food. What do you say, Demetrius?
And he came back and told me that moment changed his life.
Right. Because we all know that person.
Yeah. He definitely came to my house.
I know he was there. We talked. I knew that dude.
He confided in me what he was struggling with.
I just couldn't tell anybody because he told me to keep it on the down low.
He said, when I get drafted, tell my story. Oh, yeah. That's happening in Charlotte right now.
Oh, we all know that guy. But that was really cool, Demetrius Knight. You can hear him getting the call. And also, let's get Zach Taylor in here. Cut 6, Dave. Bengals head coach talking about the selection of Demetrius Knight in the second round. Again, cut 6, Dave.
Demetrius Knight, really fired up about him. You know, Al and I were just talking, walking down here. It felt a lot like waiting for Logan a couple years ago and just letting all those picks tick off. But he's a tremendous fit for us, someone that we had an extremely high opinion of. Very thankful that he was there when we picked. Walks in the door, mature leader. You know, so many people we talk to, this is one of their favorite people that they've been around, and just the leadership qualities, the football intangibles, the football makeup, the talent that he's got. He's going to walk in the door and fight for a way to contribute immediately, and I'm fired up to watch that happen.
Yeah, mature, leader.
Yeah.
Everybody liked him. Sounds just like the back and forth the NFL folks had with Shedeur Sanders.
The opposite way.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, but look, we talked about this with Demetrius Knight. Didn't take a genius to realize this dude's going to kill it in the interviews.
Mm-hmm.
Mature, a leader, grounded guy, confident but not egotistical. You know, team. And even your Shane said, you know, this guy had the qualities of leadership, you know, and you caught it early. And that and what he can do on the field for you. Now, again, there are things he has to develop and grow and get better at. And, you know, I mean, you know, consistency in pass coverage will be a thing. But, you know, he can rush the passer. He can play the run. And when he hits you, you stay hit.
Yes.
So Demetrius Knight has a nice future ahead of himself. I'll say this. If he's not a long-term type starter in the NFL in some way, shape, or form, it won't be because that dude didn't work.
Yeah, no, you know he's going to put the work in. You know you're not going to have to deal with issues off the field and stuff like that. So, again, and you know, he kind of went on the higher end of what we thought his projection was going to be. And you know what? That character could have been the difference between him going, 49th and maybe 70th or something along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, again, there's so many little things involved in this that people don't think matter. That matters. Especially, look, let's wipe out the 1% of this thing.
Right.
Because the 1% is a bunch of freakish football players or freakish whatever athletes, you know, or what that 1% that's going to get drafted no matter what.
Yep.
Almost everybody else now, the little things are going to matter. And when you do the little things well, it props you. It's like we forget something. For most of these guys, this is a job interview.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the job interviews you're going on in your life. If you go into a job interview with your underwear on outside of your pants, you're sitting there, you're picking your nose, you put your feet up on their desk, and you go, "Excuse me, man, I got to take a call. Hey, I got to text the bud. Hold on for a minute, man. We're going for some beers. What were you saying again? Yeah, hold on for a sec. How do you think that's going to go for you?
Probably not well.
You walk in there like a real grown man and mature, and you have conversations. By the way, these guys are looking to spend millions of dollars on you before it's all said and done.
They're investing in you.
Think about this. Think about the interviews you have when you're making like $14 an hour, $12 an hour or something. This is millions of dollars.
The difference between when you interview for your first part-time job and your actual first full-time job,
Yes.
night and day.
Yes. You got to go in there and handle your business. And Demetrius Knight, guarantee you, handled his business. There's no doubt about it. Probably walked in carrying some Pampers under his arm. Hey, I'm sorry to bring these in. I'm just kind of in the middle of the run here. I can sit down. Was this 15 minutes? Okay, good. All right.
He's got oil on his arm because he just changed the oil out in the parking lot. I got a long list of things to do
There's
today.
stuff going on, man. Hey, some parents will like take the take like pacifiers and stuff and hook them to themselves so
Yeah,
they don't lose them.
yeah.
He's there got a pacifier stuck to him. Like, man, I got to run soon. Babysitter. I told the babysitter I'd be there at 3:30.
I apologize for the stain. The baby spit up on me before I left. Didn't have time to clean it.
He's just, I mean, yeah, this is a guy with a family and a grown man. And when he went in there, and he knew, you know what this does too. I mean, let's be honest. He's taking care of others.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of people probably in his family that, hey, I need help with this, need help with that. Like, it's not just the small little bit there. It's everybody. And I'm sure he's very good at taking care of all those people.
Very
and,
cool.
Again, now gets the opportunity to do that on an even larger scale.
That's a great story. It really is. You know, just real happy for all these guys, especially Demetrius Knight. Like you said, when you're delivering Uber Eats a couple years ago, you're playing in Charlotte. You know, you left Georgia Tech, you went to Charlotte, and now you're going to get yourself in the portal. Hopefully, you can get yourself a good landing spot that can show off your skills and your game. And
You did it.
and it all worked.
For as much as we love to focus on the negatives of college football and the portal's this, the portal's that, like this, and Cam Ward as well is a great example of the positives the portal can bring. Because again, if this was 15 years ago, Demetrius Knight never gets to South Carolina. Again, things didn't work out at Tech. You're going to go transfer down to Charlotte, spend the rest of your career there. Maybe you'll be an undrafted free agent somewhere and try and stick there. But you know, the NFL isn't looking at you the same way they would here.
You know, this also, all right, let's do it for a minute. Demetrius Knight showed up under the radar transfer portal guy, right?
Yep.
Kyle Kennard showed up a little bit higher profile than Demetrius Knight, but no one went, wow, the South Carolina Gamecocks just got the future Nagurski Award winner. No one said that. You look at those two guys and look what they did. TJ Sanders, he didn't start playing football till what, 11th grade or something?
It was late in high school, and so he didn't come here knowing everything.
Yeah, wasn't a 5-star dude ready to come here and rock and roll. You know, you look at all these guys that have gotten. Tonka Hemingway, another one. He came in and he developed and he got better. Now, part of that's the players, and part of that is the fact that you were part of a coaching staff that helped you develop on the defensive side of the ball. Nicky Manwari, watching Nicky Manwari as a freshman and watching him his junior year, night and day.
And that is the cool thing about a draft like this is you can point to some of those guys and say, we got them out of high school. They came in, we developed, we turned them into second-round picks, fourth-round picks, wherever it may be. We also got the guys that came in here that nobody was really looking at, and we got them to the point where they could be drafted high enough to go make millions of dollars in the NFL. Like, I can't think of better recruiting pitches than what you had from this weekend.
And then you go like this. 2 years ago, we had a wide receiver go in the first round, Xavier Legette. I mean, you can go all over the place with that, and it helps your recruiting.
Also, hey, if you leave us as a wide receiver, you don't get drafted.
Yeah, what a shame. What was that guy's name again?
Is it Judas?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
I wonder by day 3 was he even sitting around looking at the phone at that point.
I don't know, there's probably a profile out there of somebody that doesn't get drafted and how that goes. Of like, you're watching the TV and you're watching every pick and like, maybe I'll go do something outside for a little bit.
Isn't that like when you were like a kid and you first started having girlfriends and stuff and you're waiting for the girl to call you? And she was to call you like 6 o'clock, and all of a sudden you get to 6:10, 6:15.
See, by the time I came along, we were texting, so I didn't really have to deal with that.
I didn't have that. We didn't have that. We rode horses. We had that phone that Fred Flintstone had. But you're sitting around, you're waiting for that phone call, man, and she's not calling what she's supposed to, and all of a sudden you get 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and all sorts of kooky stuff's going through your head, like she's making out with your best friend somewhere.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's the worst case scenario.
And that's what this is like. 3 days. Look. Our boy Wells knew he wasn't getting drafted in the first 2 days. No matter, maybe he thought day 2, maybe somebody sold him that bill of goods. So let's say day 2 and day 3, he sat around waiting to get a call. Man, again, not pitying him because he kind of look what he did.
Yeah,
but
and nobody's crying about it here.
Other guys though that you're sitting there and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting and you're waiting, and you never get that call.
Right.
Anyway, a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. The saga of Shedeur Sanders. Let's get into this in the next segment. We'll bring up something that, because there's so many different ways to look at this thing. So many different ways. One of them is the reaction to Sanders falling by the media, which I thought was also very interesting. So we're going to flip this thing upside down every way possible next on the Halftime Show. David Ayer punching the buttons, Tyler Head, Terry Ford here on the game. A lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the game. Really, look, this draft was not. Look, getting drafted is very important to everyone who hears their name. So this is not about that, because that's the most important thing all the time in the NFL draft. But if you're looking for juicy storylines, this was kind of a not very compelling draft.
In terms of total number of storylines, no. In terms of the magnitude of one, perhaps.
And because you didn't have a lot of other wow storylines, the Shedeur Sanders went insane. This whole thing. It was just craziness.
Yep.
And it even got Mel Kiper fired up. And let's get this. Dave, let's do cut 14 real quick. Mel Kiper talking about the NFL and how they evaluate quarterbacks.
The NFL has been clueless for 50 years when it comes to evaluating quarterback. Clueless. They have no idea what they're doing in terms of evaluating quarterback. That's proof. There's proof of that. When they say we know exactly what we're talking about with quarterback, they don't.
Said the man who loved Jimmy Clausen. But anyway, now Mel, right or wrong doesn't matter, because I was looking at the stats last week. Out of all the quarterbacks picked in the first round, about roughly 40% you can look at in some way, shape, or form as a success. That's an awful hit rate.
Sure.
It is an awful hit rate. So Mel, in theory, is right about that. But Mel losing his mind and going nuclear for 3 days, we'll get into it, because it was a bit much. We'll get to it.
I think he went way over here.
Yeah, and I have a theory as to why. I think I threw it by you earlier today, but I have a theory as to maybe why he was so. It was almost personal.
Oh yeah, I mean he jumped on this on Thursday, and even after Shedeur got drafted,
couldn't stop.
That clip
was the cut
was
after
he got drafted.
Right, absolutely.
So again, it finally happened, and he's still going.
The thing about this is, it's to me, everybody's trying to make it more complex than it really is. I just feel like it's simple. You had a guy who thought more highly of himself than the people who were going to draft him thought of him. And look, if Shedeur Sanders would have gone into these interviews like Demetrius Knight, would have handled his business like a grown-up, would have been invested in the conversations, actually looked like he cared to be there and paid attention, and if he would have been an adult, he would have been drafted sometime, to me, mid-late first round. And here's why. If you draft Christian Ponder in the first round, if you draft Jake Locker, if you draft Paxton Lynch, we can go up and down the guys that have been drafted in the first round by the NFL.
Sure.
Some of them have good physical skills. Some of them didn't. You could see Shedeur Sanders getting drafted, especially a quarterback-desperate league in a bad quarterback draft. If Shedeur Sanders would have handled himself totally different than he did, like the complete opposite, he probably would have gone sometime late first round, but he didn't. And when you're not a wow talent, Tyler, when you're a good talent, not great, you're not Cam Newton, dude. You're not Peyton Manning.
Yep.
And you carry yourself the way Shedeur Sanders did, that's when you hurt yourself.
Yeah.
And for some reason, Shedeur Sanders and the whole Sanders team thought Shedeur was this lock to go in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, is it one of those things where you say it out loud enough, it becomes true?
It almost feels that way because, and you brought this up, that, as he starts falling, then everybody starts breaking him down. Starts saying, well, here's where he's struggling, here's where he's struggling. It's like, okay, well, why wasn't that more of a conversation leading up to it? Because you clearly had inefficiencies. And one thing, I read the ESPN write-up of how exactly this slide happened, and this one sentence stuck out to me. It said, slides happen when talent doesn't match or surpass potential drawbacks. I go back to 2015. Jameis Winston was an idiot when he was at Florida State, but he was an amazing football player. Won the Heisman Trophy, could put him in the playoffs second year and all those kind of things. And they didn't want to have to deal with the guy that stole crab legs, the guy that jumped up on a table and said what he said, that was dealing with sexual assault allegations, all those kind of things. But dang it, this could be our franchise. This could be our future. We're still going to take him at number one. Now, again, different set of circumstances when it comes to Shedeur Sanders because he wasn't doing those kind of things. But it's the team around him. It's obviously his dad. It's this dog and pony show that Pro Day was out at Colorado with his logo and all of his team and all this kind of stuff. It's just everything. Him throwing his teammates under the bus during the regular season. I got to imagine every team looked at this and said, do we really want to deal with this guy for somebody that's not going to be a guaranteed starter right away? And look at the Giants. Reports coming out about him blowing this interview with them. Brian Daboll getting very upset with him. That's why they took Jackson Dart at the end of the first round. This wasn't a vendetta against Deion Sanders. No. When it came down to talking the X's and O's of football, like all these interviews are, he blew it.
He carried himself like he didn't care. Like, you know who I am, right?
Yeah.
You know I'm doing you a favor by talking to you,
yeah,
right?
I'm like, okay. And by the way, he also only talked to a handful of teams.
Which tells you the arrogance of not understanding
because he
the
thought
room.
he was going to be, I'm going to be off the board.
Top 10 guy.
Top 10 picks. So what it was like the Browns, the Giants. I think he talked to the Titans. Like every other guy's talking to as many teams as possible.
I talked to everybody.
Exactly. And he's putting out an exclusive list. So it's no wonder that 3/4 of the team didn't have him on draft board. It's like, well, if he doesn't want to talk to us, we don't want him.
It's the old saying, the juice doesn't, equal the squeeze.
Yes.
And that's really what Shedeur Sanders was.
Now, did he fall farther than he probably should have? Yeah.
But that's where we're teaching you a lesson.
Exactly. When Jalen Milroe went ahead of him, I was like,
Gabriel,
okay,
come on.
the league's trying to send a message at this point.
Yes, it just was. And that was the thing about it was if Shedeur Sanders has all this going on right now and he's Cam Newton.
Yeah.
He's first pick overall. Nobody cares.
And let's not forget, these teams talk to each other. GM's talking to each other. So the GM of the Giants, you're telling the GM of the Vikings, hey, did you hear how Shedeur's interview went with us? He didn't even talk to you guys, right? Like, again, this news gets around. You garner a reputation to where maybe if you are on somebody's draft board, talk about those razor-thin margins between guys, be like, well, we heard this stuff about him with this other team. We don't want that. We'll go with somebody else.
We don't need all that mess. Not at all. All right, real quick, Dave, let's cut 16 in here. Todd McShay used to be on ESPN doing a lot of the draft stuff. Now kind of does his own thing. He was talking about why Shedeur Sanders fell. Cut 16, Dave.
Was there any breaking news?
Right.
Nothing breaking, but I'm starting. I read a couple people are like, Shedeur is in play at number 3. Shedeur's not in play at 3. Shedeur's not in play with the New York Giants, as far as I'm told. Shedeur didn't have a great interview with Brian Daboll in a private visit. An install package came in. The preparation wasn't there for it. Got called out on it. Didn't like that. Brian didn't appreciate him not liking it. I've said this before, and it started at the Combine, and a couple days after the Combine, I don't like saying report. Like, we don't report anything. I shared information that I got I know if I'm getting it, that information people that are in this business that are really great at their job and talking to a lot of the same people I'm talking to, and probably more. I know more. I was surprised it wasn't being talked about. That Shedeur Sanders, I told you, if you've been following the show from the beginning, I told you there were 2 personnel people that I spoke to who were in the room during interviews, which means they're key parts of the organization. Let's leave it at that. 2 teams drafting in the top 10 with quarterback needs where the interviews did not go well. Not disrespectful, nothing harsh, just felt like the phrase I've been using, and I think it aptly describes it. We didn't get the sense that Shedeur cared all that much about what we thought of him.
So that's the thing. Look, McShay talked to some people, right? Because these guys do.
Yeah.
The guys who do this, like really do this draft stuff, they actually talk to people in the league. Mel Kiper talks to people in the league.
Did he not want to believe what they were telling him?
No, this is just my thinking. This was personal with Mel to the point like Sanders was like part of his family.
Like his kid.
But here's my question. So let's say Mel's talking, and I don't have any proof of this. I'm just trying to think of angles why Mel was so angry. Did his NFL people hang him out to dry?
Maybe.
Because he had Shedeur Sanders rated ahead of Cam Ward.
Yeah.
He had Shedeur Sanders going in the top 10, if I remember, if memory serves me.
Yeah. At worst, not going out of the first round.
So Mel loved Cam Ward. And Mel was all in on Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah.
You got to be getting some intel from someone inside league circles also if you're Mel Kiper, right?
Yeah.
So did his people let him down because it was personal with Mel. Like, it almost like someone screwed me over.
That's why he was so angry.
Because he was just so over. Mel, who cares? Look, the Jimmy Clausen thing happened years ago. No one cares. It's still on TV.
He embarrassed himself.
I think that's what it was. He went so overboard and so over the top. I don't know how he reins himself back. I mean, you got Lewis Riddick and you've got like Reese Davis going, shut up, bro.
Yeah, you're acting like a child.
Enough.
You're a grown man.
Enough. I just feel like it's personal. Did somebody screw him over? It almost feels that way. I don't know. All right. Football, a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors. South Carolina offensive lineman transfer portal. Get to it next. All right, what you're talking about, we're talking about, everybody's talking about, is a lot of football in the 1 o'clock hour, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors on the halftime show. All right, transfer portal offensive lineman Nolan Hay, who is in the portal from Incarnate Word, according to Gamecock Central, is down to 2 schools, South Carolina and Oklahoma State. That's what Nolan Hay said on a radio show, I believe. Yep, Hay posted late last week that he's had an official visit set for South Carolina for May 1, but indicated that he might move that visit up. Quote, I think it's just how good they've been as of recently, especially in conferences like the SEC and the level that they're at. Hay said the program is a winning program, especially lately. That's really what it is at the end of the day. Everyone's about money nowadays. We play this game to compete and win. South Carolina, top 25 team last year, played really well. I'm a very competitive guy. I just want to win at the highest possible level. I'm pretty excited about South Carolina. Right now, South Carolina's in a better spot than Oklahoma State, to be quite honest. They went last year. But, of course, as we've seen, in men's basketball, football, baseball, everywhere where there's a transfer portal, how you can transform and spin your team back around in a very short period of time. But Oklahoma State had a bad year. Remember, Mike Gundy took a pay cut, and he said it was wink, wink, voluntarily. So we'll see where that goes. But Oklahoma State and South Carolina are the final 2 choices for Nolan Hay, transfer from Incarnate Word. And, look, when you say the things that, old Nolan just said, if you're truly looking to win and compete, and it's not about the money and the other stuff, which whenever you say it's not about the money, it's always a little bit, some way, shape, or form about the money. But if Nolan's really looking for a competitive situation, South Carolina's coming off a better year than Oklahoma State. Just saying. So we'll see where it goes, though. Nolan Hay, down to 2 schools, Carolina or the Cowboys at Oklahoma State. Emory Floyd, by the way, found a new home. If you haven't heard, sit down. He's going to play for some guy named Dowell Loggins at Appalachian State. So Emory Floyd, Emory Floyd wasn't going to start at South Carolina at corner. Kind of getting passed up a little bit on the depth. Don't have a depth chart, so they got passed up a little bit on however they're doing that right now.
The ABCs.
Yes, the ABCs. So Emory Floyd transferring to Appalachian State to play for Dowell Loggins. Also, quarterback Dante Reno reportedly set to visit App State this weekend as well, while the Mountaineers are also trying to make a run at offensive lineman Cam Pringle.
Their quarterback went to UCLA. Now he's at Tennessee.
Because the Tennessee quarterback went where, Tyler?
To UCLA.
Yeah. Makes sense? No.
So connecting all these dots.
So we'll see what happens. Dante Reno reportedly setting up a visit to Appalachian State. That's the latest there on the old transfer portal stuff. And look, I'm sure because, let's face it. We're not being mean. Emory Floyd, Dante Reno, Cam Pringle, those are, what do we call those transfers?
Healthy transfers. Guys that had not done really a lot production-wise here at South Carolina. You hate to lose depth. That's always going to be something that you always want to build up on. But, this isn't losing your leading tackler. This isn't losing your leading receiver from a year ago. These guys are, and again, in today's world of the transfer portal, everybody loses guys. You almost have to account for a handful of guys every portal cycle to leave. And again, this kind of falls right in line with that.
You're just hoping you never lose guys that are vital to the next season.
And look, the entire scope of the portal between December and now, Carolina didn't really lose anybody of productive value, which is impressive.
I know. When you look at, because that's what I'm saying with Emory Floyd and Dante Reno, Cam Pringle, let's say all 3 would land at Appalachian State under Dowell Loggins. Shane would be like, okay, man.
Hey, good for y'all.
Go get him. Dowell's a good dude.
Sure. And again, this isn't transferring to Clemson. This isn't transferring to Kentucky or something like that. Something's going to directly affect you. Yeah.
Not at all.
Go down a level, go play for a coach that you're familiar with, and see, who knows, maybe you can come back here in a couple of years after you've, got some experience down there.
You go tear it up and show you can play on that level there.
I think we've learned to never say never when it comes to the transfer portal.
No, who came back last year? Gilbert Redmond. So you never know what can happen. But Emory Floyd definitely committing to Appalachian State. Dante Reno with a reportedly setting a visit, and the Mountaineers are also trying to get Cam Pringle into the fold as well. So that's the latest on what's going on with the portal. And then we talked about what could be happening for South Carolina regarding offensive line help. So that's the way that is going. The latest football, more football, sponsored by Atlantic Windows and Doors in the 1 o'clock hour here on the game. You know, I thought this was interesting. Quinn Ewers, I think Gunnar brought this up this morning. Quinn Ewers goes in the 7th round. Really, I'm not surprised at all. I didn't think he'd go any higher than the 5th. And so Quinn Ewers goes in the 7th round. And Bill saw this somewhere posted or just brought up as a piece of conversation. If you're Quinn Ewers, right, because once you're in the draft, you're in the draft.
Yes, there's no turning back.
There's no turning back. Some other sports, you can see where your draft position is, like basketball. You can see those kind of things. Baseball, you can see those kind of things, and you can always go back. If you're Quinn Ewers and you see that you're going to be you were a 7th round pick, you're probably sitting around thinking, man, I could have gone played college football somewhere else and made 7 figures easy.
Yeah.
Had my 1 year of eligibility left.
Yeah, could have gone to a Power 4. Because, again,
Oh, you would have gone to Power 4.
Again, Arch very nearly took the job last year, all indications. So there was not seemingly a feasible path where he and Arch Manning could have both come back for Texas. So Ewers could have gone in the transfer portal, would have commanded. I mean, again, if you're paying Carson Beck $4 million to go to Miami, why wouldn't somebody pay Quinn Ewers to come be their quarterback? So he'd be making about 3-4 times what he's going to be making on his rookie contract instead. And again, that's the risk you take. Again, when you read his draft profile, somebody that had questions, not really good throwing the ball down the field, which if you're going to play in the NFL, got to be really good at those kind of things. So
not real good under pressure in the pocket.
Not good under pressure. Like, again, he's somebody that had a lot of inefficiencies that, you know, again, as time wore on in his college career, he didn't get better at those things. So, again, 7th round pick. Again, he's going to be sitting behind Tua and whoever else is in that Miami quarterback room. And he'll be collecting a paycheck, but I don't know how long he hangs on.
He'll be learning from the great Zach Wilson.
That's right.
Backup.
Yeah, I forgot he's there now. We're number 0, by the way. That's fitting.
Well, here's the thing about what they were bringing up this morning. I had Bill read it somewhere. What if you're, Quinn Ewers, you decide, I don't like my draft position. I want to go back to school. I'm going to sue the NCAA. They lose so much. Maybe you can sue them and say, and that opens the door for, this in the future for folks.
I'm surprised it hasn't happened yet. There's probably an avenue there. Yeah, I mean, if you're his legal team, look into it.
Ready? If I've got ready, here's what if you've hired an agent, because I'm guessing Quinn Ewers has hired an agent, so that kind of screws up a lot. But let's say you're Quinn Ewers and you say, I don't want to be a 7th round pick. I've got eligibility left. Why can't I go back and play college football?
That's coming, especially because, again, of the high command you have in NIL now. Like, there's going to be an avenue where that's going to become a thing, saying, hey, if you don't like your draft position, you can choose to come back. Now, how that creates a mess for college rosters across the country of, hey, we thought our quarterback was gone, now he's coming back. Now what do we do with all these other guys? Like, it's going to happen, and it'll just add another piece of mess to the college football
chaos.
calendar. Yeah.
I mean, because really, you think about it, it's done in other sports. You get to see where you're drafted. If you don't like your draft position, you come back. And I'm mistaken. When it comes to men's basketball, you have until a certain day to pull out of the draft.
Yes.
You don't hire an agent. You can declare for the draft, but I'm not hiring an agent. And you go to the combine, get all your draft intel, and then you make a choice. Baseball, you can see where you're drafted, and you can go back to play college baseball or whatever you're going to do. So the college baseball model, if I'm Quinn Ewers, maybe I go, you know what, I don't like where I was drafted. I got eligibility. I'm going to sue to see if I can get back in there and play another year of college football because I'm going to make more money there than I am as a 7th round draft pick.
Yep.
I mean, geez, you make more money at Buc-ee's.
Actually might.
You might. I'm not kidding.
I saw that little review of their salaries, and I'm like,
you see the guys that take care of the cleanest bathrooms in the world making like $20 an hour.
There's a reason they're that clean.
There's a reason they're that clean.
You put some pride in your work.
Absolutely, when they're dropping you that kind of loot. All right, 803-404-6100, Firehouse Sub Text the Hour coming up next here on the Halftime Show on the Game. Time to roll out our Firehouse subtext of the hour. Don't forget baseball here on the Game in Columbia and our affiliate Myrtle Beach. Tomorrow, 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch against Charleston Southern. We'll talk more about what happened over the weekend with Paul Maneri and his crew in Lexington, Kentucky. So that is, again, coming up at what's trending at 2, top of the hour. What do you got there on the Firehouse subtext line, boss?
Jim says Sanders is like the kid in small town America that had his whole town say he was a god, then gets to college and realizes, oh crap, everyone is good. The difference is some of these kids learn humility lessons, but blames everyone else.
It's kind of something like that. I think a lot of the analogies everybody's been throwing out, it's kind of going down the same road of you misread your skills.
Yeah.
And you acted like a guy who's misread his skills, just the way you treated people and the way you went through these interviews. And
And I'm very interested to see, because let's think about this. In high school, his dad coached him.
Yep.
Jackson State, his dad coached him. Colorado, his dad coached him.
Mm-hmm.
How does he do out on his own? How does he? And look, he's still going to have his team of people around him and all that
Sure.
kind of stuff, but you don't have anybody in the coaching staff that's going to vouch for you. And I know Dion says I'm harder on my son than anybody on the team because he's my kid, but like, you're going into grown man football now and your dad's not on the coaching staff. Like, what does that do? Does that humble you? Are you able to handle that? Like, I think that's a legitimate question you have to ask about him.
are you going to take coaching from someone that's not named Sanders?
Yeah. Are you going to call your dad when, hey, so-and-so got on to me today, said this, and that? Is your dad going to tell you, yeah, welcome to the NFL, buddy? Or is he going to vouch for you? You know what I mean?
Is he going to cause, grief? I think that's...
Is he going to have to fly up to Cleveland in the middle of a week to talk to somebody?
You know, he's going to be that dad you told me about at that Little League game.
Yeah.
We ran out there.
Yeah, took his own kid out of the game. Wasn't a coach.
Nope.
But he saw that his $1 million arm retirement plan was not going well or risking injury, so he took him out.
Yeah, we had a dude's mom. She sat in a lawn chair, old school lawn chair.
Yep.
On the right field line and coached her kid the whole game and screamed and yelled that if an umpire called a strike, she'd go insane.
Because she definitely had the best vantage point.
Yes, the right field line.
On the right field
shows
line.
you the balls and strikes. And is that going to be Dion? Buff one comes flying in, lands by your practice facility. Here comes Coach Prime to run over. Hey, Coach, my boy called me last night. What are we doing? What's up, Coach?
Imagine Coach Stefanski, Dion's on line one.
Yeah, and he eye rolls. Oh, God, are you serious?
What's to hear about my son being third on the depth chart?
And he just goes, he's like, you see him? Hey, K-Dog, what are we doing here? What's going on, man? What are you doing to Shador? If I was coaching him, that's right, ready? I'm not going to tell you what to do, but if I was coaching him.
And we brought this up the other day, for somebody like Dable, specifically with the Giants, like, are you not going to kind of feel the pressure of like, well, if I don't do well here, they're going to fire me and hire Dion?
Well, there's some talk about that as well. Look, again, all this stuff is floating out there because at the end of the day, Shador Sanders last year, we're not having this conversation because Shador Sanders is not a first-round pick.
Right.
Not even talked about. Just like Cam Ward wouldn't be a first-round pick last year. It's not a good quarterback draft. And all this started because a quarterback who could have gone at some point in the middle to late first round because of a poor quarterback draft carried himself like, he was Peyton Manning coming out of Tennessee. And the fact is you weren't as good as you thought you were, and you were kind of not very cool in all your interviews or respectful. You fell. And once you started falling, the whole league went, all right, here's your lesson, bud. Here you go. But, yeah, I mean, it's just another good analogy on the text line. He's that guy. Everybody in the small town thought he was wonderful and great. Got to the big city, guess what? Well, all those stories about a man, dude, you're so good here at musical theater in Missoula, Montana. You ought to go to Hollywood.
Sure.
You killed the supper club.
Yeah, and then he's waiting tables for $8 an hour.
And the dream ain't happening.
It's not.
And that's kind of the Shador Sanders. That's a really good text. Nice analogy.
He's the guy that wore his Letterman to college.
Oh, I remember there was a guy. wore his varsity jacket. I remember seeing him, and I was like, man, 25 in a bar in Baltimore, and I saw my high school varsity jacket. I walked over. I'm like, Glenn, what are you doing? He's like, I'm kidding. I'm like, Glenn, was your main coat dirty? And that's the only thing you could pull out of the closet? He's like, oh, well, you know. I was just like, man.
Like, no, there's kind of a code that once you graduate, you don't wear it anymore.
There was a guy from my high school walking down the boardwalk senior week at Ocean City wearing his varsity jacket and his swim trunks.
Was it not like 90 degrees?
94 degrees. And his varsity jacket. And we're like, hey, Bob, it's going to get you a girl. Uh-huh. Halftime show in the game. I'm back. I totally misread that for some reason. Yeah, we'll come back, talk what's trending at 2. Interesting Lenore Sellers prediction coming up. Halftime show. What's trending at 2? Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Ayer punching up the buttons as we go till 3 on the game. Then we hand it off to Jay and Elijah on the postgame show. All right, real quick. The way too early. I love the mock drafts where you don't even know the draft order. Just make it up. I love the mock drafts with the draft order. We got to tell Elijah this. He's a big Saints fan. That the way too early mock draft by, was it On 3, has the Saints picking first overall, which would make Elijah happy because he'll take Arch Manning.
But you're telling me he shouldn't bother watching this season then?
Punt the season, Elijah. Jump back in the 2026 draft.
What if Tyler Shuck ends up being a superstar?
Like I said, New Orleans could be picking first. So they've got New Orleans picking first here, taking Arch Manning. The second pick, the Browns would take a quarterback. They don't have enough of them. Drew Aller from Penn State. Then you come down to 6, and the Las Vegas Raiders would take a dude named Lenore Sellers from South Carolina. And, I mean, you know, Geno Smith is not a long-timer
No. God,
in Vegas. I mean,
he's mid-30s now.
and he is who he is. Look, Geno Smith, I'm going to give Geno Smith a ton of props. This dude came back from the scrap heap. The NFL put him on the scrap heap.
Right.
They sat him right near the dumpster, and they said, and that was it, right? And to Geno Smith's credit, he resuscitated and revived his career, became a multi-year starter in Seattle, and now he's going to be starting in Vegas. And you know what? He's been solid. Is he a top 10 guy? No. Is he near the bottom? No. He's sort of like in that, you know, that little soft middle of the NFL when it comes to quarterbacks.
He is capable of quarterbacking a team that's in contention to make the playoffs, which is what he was in Seattle.
Yeah, it's just the limitations will show up at some point in the postseason, and then you go home because he's a guy that there's things he doesn't do well at times. There's every now and then consistency's not his friend. But he can also go out there and throw for 350 and 3 scores, but the next week can throw for 162 and 2 picks.
Yep.
But Geno Smith overall is a solid starting quarterback. But he's in his 30s. If you're the Raiders, this quarterback draft coming up, you got legit guys who are going to be very interesting between like now and when this comes around in a year. It's a much better draft class. That's why, so like, here's my thing about this year. Everybody is like, you know, going crazy over, you know, why didn't this team pick a quarterback or this team pick a quarterback? Maybe they didn't want to start a quarterback clock because next year's quarterback class is much better. So maybe the Steelers went, you know what, we'll get this goofball out of his hut at some point, and he'll quit burning incense and doing peyote, and he'll come in here and play football for us. And this will be our Band-Aid for this year. Maybe, just maybe next year, we can go out there and draft a quarterback out of the good quarterback class. You know, again, the Giants, this is no offense to Jackson Dart, but to trade back into the first round for Jackson Dart makes no sense to me. Jackson
As your third quarterback?
Yeah, and look, here's the thing. Look, Patrick Mahomes broke the hex of the Texas Tech quarterback, right? Right now, though, and Jackson Dart might break this hex. Right now, Ole Miss quarterbacks, really any quarterback that has ever run Lane Kiffin's offense has never really translated into a good NFL QB. That offense is not building you to go play in the NFL. That offense is built to score 50 points in college football. You're not going to go through a ton of progressions, do a lot of pre-snap stuff or whatever. Lane makes it very simple and easy to run because he wants his quarterback playing and not thinking.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, it's not doing you any favors when it comes to the NFL. How's our boy Carroll doing?
I think he's in the UFL.
Is he playing for Birmingham or something?
That's right. Preston's team. He's
he's Preston's
the quarterback for the Stallions.
So again, we can go through the Southern Cal quarterbacks and quarterbacks that have played, you know, under Lane Kiffin before. It's just not a offense that's going to prepare you for the complexities of the NFL.
With Blake Sims, Jake Coker, he would have been there early in Hurts' time in Alabama, but then he went to FAU, and then they went through new coordinators every year.
And Hurts will say that he really started developing with Sarkisian before he left to go to Oklahoma to study under Riley. This was Lane Kiffin didn't do. When Lane Kiffin was Hurts' quarterback, Hurts was a very raw thrower of the football. So now, really, Kiffin doesn't get a whole lot for the Jalen Hurts. It is no offense. Look, could Jackson Dart break this thing we look at? Sure, just like Patrick Mahomes did for that type of offense that was run at Texas Tech with the four wideouts and all that stuff and the run and shoot kind of stuff and the stuff that Kingsbury did that he got from Leach and all that mess. So maybe Jackson Dart breaks it for Lane Kiffin. But to trade back up in the first round to get a guy who's really going to need some work. And, oh, by the way, the head coach is on the hot seat and the GM's on the hot seat.
Yeah.
I just don't see – look, if you really love a guy, then go get him, and I hope it's right. But this was a draft where if you're drafting quarterbacks high up, it's almost like we need a quarterback, and we got to draft one. Like, again, look, there's nothing against Cam Ward, but would I take Cam Ward number 1 overall? Probably not. I probably would have traded down. Or I'm going to take Carter or Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, or I'm going to trade out of the pick. Because, I mean, Cam Ward's the best of the bunch. He really is. But he would be graded, and I've read this multiple places, that Cam Ward would have been graded behind every quarterback that was taken in the first round last year. Does that mean Cam Ward can't be a heck of a quarterback? No, I'm just saying for the evaluation of a draft, Cam Ward would be totally behind those guys.
Yeah, pretty much.
So am I going to spend the first pick overall in the draft and start a draft clock with a rookie quarterback knowing that information? Tennessee's in. Hope it works out for him. I like Cam Ward. I'd love to see it, go well for Cam Ward. But I'm almost thinking I was open for business. And maybe the Titans were, and maybe they didn't get any great offers. Because, again, this quarterback class is not looked at fondly. So we'll see where it goes. But I saw the Giants trading back in to get Jackson Dart. I'm like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Why are you doing that? I mean, first round.
Yeah.
We talk about this all the time. First round.
By the time he's theoretically ready to play, Daboll's probably gone. James probably gone. Like, it's a whole new regime there.
And think about this, too. You got to make a decision on this guy after year 3, what you're going to do about his rookie contract. Or, I mean, you can go the Jordan Love route. It eventually has seemed to work out for the Packers and Love. But you're really walking a tightrope. If you don't know a lot about this guy by the end of year 3 because he's developing or he's maybe played 1 year for you and it's a mixed bag, you got to go, okay, we're just going to play it out and go through and get to the tag. Sometimes that's a very dangerous maneuver. So we'll see. But if you look at next year, conceivably, if Arch Manning is what people think Arch Manning is going to be, he could be the first pick overall. Drew Aller got a lot better last year at Penn State. He still has to get better, but the dude, he can sling it. He's got all those quote-unquote measurables, Tyler. And then there are people. I was listening to the Sirius XM College Sports Channel coming in, Channel 84. And it was Dari Noka and Adam Rittenberg, and they really did a few minutes on Sellers. And if you look at this quarterback draft for 26, if Sellers is as good as everyone is expecting him to be and he develops in the way everybody thinks he's going to develop, he's going to hear his name in the top 10. He just is. He's going to be if he starts to throw the football to the ability of how he can take off and run it, oh, my God. He could be the first pick overall before it's all said and done. We'll see, but if he develops on the path that a lot of people hope he will, he's going to be a first-round pick, most likely a top 10 guy. And you're going to see a lot more of these way too early mocks. It's going to have Sellers in there. Maybe, behind Aller and Arch Manning, maybe ahead of Aller, but, Sellers, there's a ton of expectation on Lenore Sellers in 2025.
Sure. No, he's coming in as, again, one of the better regarded quarterbacks in all of college football, and obviously has the size and the ability to play at that next level. Again, still some things to refine and fine-tune this upcoming year, but if he does go on to be a top 10 pick, that probably means South Carolina has a pretty good 2025, which everybody here would obviously take.
Yeah, so kind of interesting. Just the way too early mock draft from On3 had Lenore Sellers in the top 10. I always like looking at those just for fun because then save it on my computer and then go back and look at the real draft like a year later and see how that went. But much is expected when it comes to Lenore Sellers. All right, what's trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions. Baseball, South Carolina and Kentucky, Gamecocks lose 2 out of 3. We're going to get more into it in the next segment. But Game 3, just kind of the wheels came off defensively for South Carolina in that Game 3 loss to Kentucky. Here's Coach Maneri, cut 24, David Ayer. Here's Paul Maneri talking about the defensive performance in Game 3.
Probably the worst defensive game we've played all year. Just, I don't know if it was the artificial turf, but I just couldn't make a play in the infield. You know, we had made them look hard. You know, they made them look easy, I guess, because they're used to the turf. But we just, had really bad inning. Our pitchers' defense in one inning. I think we made 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. They back up third base on the throw. Throw gets it. We just played very sloppy today. And maybe ever tired. A long day yesterday, or maybe it was a turn, but we just played really poor defense. Now, SB gave us a great effort, and Susie came in to sit hard, but could have been a double play at the end and leave the game tied 1-1. We just couldn't get a single play behind our futures, and it's tied. It's important against us all day.
All I know is I haven't heard Kentucky Headhunters in a long time. Dumas Walker.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie. I started zoning out of Maneri, going, "Is that Kentucky Headhunters and Dumas Walker?" Okay. Haven't heard that in forever.
That's classic road game.
I know.
Post game, by the way.
It is. It really is. It's like they say, "Okay, we're going to have the press meeting right up here in the DJ booth." But anyway, Maneri talking about defensively. Look, if you're not used to playing on artificial turf, can it be a thing? Depending on, sure. I mean, it's just a different bounce. Everything's different. I remember, again, I told you a few weeks ago, playing on artificial turf and slow pitch softball. Just the whole game's different than playing on grass when you play on turf.
The balls hop differently. Obviously, there's no transition from dirt to grass. You're playing on a big carpet. Can't feel the warning track. Like, there's a lot of things that go into it, but, like, good teams adapt to those kind of things.
Because you're not the first team that has to go play on that turf from not having the experience.
And I guarantee you that's not the first time all those guys ever played on turf in their entire life.
And Kentucky's home record isn't that great this year. So, I mean, look, I get if you're Coach Maneri, that's kind of the route you're going to take with it. You don't want to throw your guys under the bus completely. But, yeah, you got to adapt. We talk about this all the time. What happens when plan A is not working or plan B is not working? The really good teams and the really good players, okay, I got a plan C. I got to use my plan C. It's like, last night or yesterday in the NBA, Detroit Pistons got hosed on an endgame call where there should have been a foul call on Josh Hart.
Which they corrected after the game.
Well, my favorite part of that is this. Ready? Hey, by the way, we screwed that up.
Yeah. Don't we feel better now?
Yeah. How you doing?
It's like, are you going to give us the win? No.
Or can we go shoot the free throws?
We couldn't possibly do that.
Yeah, we can't really change it. We just want to let you know that we screwed it up.
Yeah. Feel better?
Hey, just want to let you know. Hey, we manned up.
Yeah. Thanks,
Told you the truth.
It's like, well, I just wish you would have lied to me more.
Make me feel better. It's like you look at some girl. Tell me the truth.
Okay. Now lie to me.
Why didn't you just lie to me, please? So, yeah, I mean, look, the turf is the turf. You got to play on. You got to adapt. That's life. And not to say it's not hard to adapt to it or it takes a little bit to adapt to it, but that was game 3, by the way. It was your third game on the turf.
You've been playing there the entire weekend. That was the best weather you'd had all weekend.
Yeah.
So I imagine the wet and stuff from the first couple of days probably were even worse conditions then. So, yeah, I don't feel like that's an excuse. And, again, things went off the rails there in, the 6th inning. You let 4 runs go across the plate in the 9th after making it a 2-run game. Again, just kind of how the season's gone.
Yeah, I mean, once again, your bullpen didn't help you. Once your offense got cooking and got you back in the game, your bullpen.
And who knows how long you're going to be out with Ethan Petrie with his injury. We'll hopefully learn about that today.
Which makes a rough year even rougher without Petrie.
Yep.
Absolutely. All right, we'll get more into the baseball in the next segment. Kind of look forward. Where is it at now? We'll got that next during the halftime show. It's Trending at 2, sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry and Gamecock Traditions on the game. Halftime show, what's trending at 2? Sponsored by Traditions Fine Jewelry, Gamecock Traditions. Breaking news, Damian Lillard, it is an Achilles. Blew his Achilles last night in Milwaukee's lost to Indiana. Lillard was out for a while with a blood clot and came back and blew his Achilles, and obviously out for maybe even next year. Again, Damian Lillard's like mid-30s, man.
Yep, I know. It's tough.
And, look, we'll sit here and talk about basketball, and Damian Lillard's a fine offensive player, doesn't play a lick of defense, but can score in bunches. But the Bucks made a mistake going star hunting and bringing in Lillard to go with Giannis, and you wiped out, the best. You got rid of the best perimeter defender / two-way guard maybe in the NBA, and your team hadn't been the same. But you hate to see stuff like this happen to Lillard.
Sure.
All accounts is he's a really good locker room guy and everything else, and now, he'd be like maybe 36, 37 or whatever when he comes back from his Achilles. And the world has been great when it comes to medicine and science and technology all coming together. You can do your ACL surgery on the sideline and get back in the game in the fourth quarter, it feels like, right?
Right.
It hasn't really advanced a lot? Achilles.
No, yeah, they're not getting stronger.
The Achilles, and you could be walking, man. Dan Marino, I think, blew his Achilles walking off the field. Lillard was non-contact.
We talked about those bizarre baseball injuries last week, and those kind of things happen in the most, unique and basic ways. So, yeah, they, what does it take, as humans evolve and stuff like that, it takes like hundreds of thousands of years for something like that to strengthen. So, yeah, it's not happening anytime soon.
Yeah, remember when Kevin Durant, he was playing and he just blew his Achilles in the championship series against Toronto. That's an injury. It still takes a while to come back. Some guys still struggle after they come back. I knew a few dudes who blew their Achilles, just said, not the same. Yeah. Of course, they don't have the best of medical care like an athlete, but still.
And look at Aaron Rodgers, who again comes back from an Achilles injury at 40 years old. Clearly not the same player. Like you said, when you're talking about a guy that's in his mid-30s, he's not going to bounce back like if he tears it at 21 or something like that. So you never know what version of yourself you're going to be when you come back.
Yeah, your Achilles can only take so much. Yeah. And for some people it goes. Yeah. And that's the noise it makes.
Guess what? Everything goes through your feet.
Yep. Everything you do. Yes.
When you start affecting your feet, then you're in trouble.
All right, back to Carolina baseball. Look, we're not going to sit here and try to pump sunshine in different parts of your body. This team has got to pretty much almost run the table in the SEC. What are you, 8-1 now? You got to go 8-1?
You got to go 8-1 in your last 9 games, which it's not going to happen. Look, baseball just doesn't work that way. You've got ranked opponents. You got to play LSU at the end of this thing. That's just not going to happen. At this point, you have to figure out, I think it's still, they've expanded the tournament. I think it's 5 games in 5 days. You got to figure out how to run the table in Hoover coming up in May, because that's your only hope.
Which means you got to play consistent baseball.
And you got to have good pitching, because guess what? You don't win tournaments without good pitching.
You got to have a good bullpen, especially when you're playing that many games and that many days. And this bullpen has been a lot of trouble this year for South Carolina.
And we'll hopefully learn sometime today the status of Ethan Petrie, because if you don't have your best player, then I don't know how far you're going.
It's just wow. All right, 803-404-6100. Our buddy Barry, he's been on the whole. Barry, appreciate you hanging on, my friend. You're on the halftime show. How you doing, bud?
Doing all right. How you guys doing?
Doing all right, Barry. What's up, my man?
All right. I talked to Tyler last weekend about the baseball. All right. Now, I heard a guy on the morning show this morning complaining about the turf, complaining about the crowd, complaining about them coming out for a mound visit to stall. All this has been a part of baseball forever, okay? The Kentucky bench making all these sounds and all this. Well, if you go to Carolina game, they do the same thing. It's part of baseball, okay? My point here is that you have a situation where the turf had nothing to do with SQ throwing the ball into center field and Nathan Hall throwing the ball. What's the turf got to do with that?
Okay? Nothing.
That's an error.
It doesn't.
Right. And everybody's this guy at this point was bashing Mangione. Let me tell you something. I don't have a dog in a fight here, but I'm a baseball guy. Okay, 100%. Grew up 9 miles from Yankee Stadium. Okay, and this team is just terrible. Mangione plays. They don't. It's not small ball. They call it small ball. He's playing baseball. They steal 5 bases. They do safety squeezes. It may aggravate the other team. They may talk crap. That's part of the game, bro. If you can't take that, you know, just give up. But they're just bashing Mangione for what he's doing when he's playing baseball like the game is supposed to be played, just like Gary Gilmore down there at Coastal Carolina. He's a manager. This guy's a manager. They manage their teams, okay? So don't bash a manager that is playing baseball the way it's supposed to be played, because that's the way Kentucky plays baseball.
I appreciate you, Barry. Thanks, pal. Always good hearing from you. Look, we always do this when it's the other side, right? Mm-hmm. The other side talks. The other side does this or does that or has gamesmanship. But it's part of the game, and if your team's doing it, and it's just gamesmanship.
If that's what works for Kentucky, that's what works for them. And I know what he's talking about, to being a circus, and they play music, and they do the crowd does these dances and all these kind of things. Like, that works for you. That works for you. Again, you're not if you're not breaking the rules of the game itself. I mean, what can you do? You know what I mean?
Well, you know what you do? You tune it all out and play baseball.
Exactly. Good teams are supposed to be able to withstand all those kind of things and win no matter what. And again, like you said, Sunday was third game of the series. You just played 18 innings the day before on that exact same turf, which is probably in rougher shape considering the rain on Friday and all that kind of stuff. So by game 3, it's not an excuse. And again, just this team, we've talked about it. They don't have the talent to compete in the SEC week in and week out. They can get close, but they can't get over the hump and win. And again, I feel like we're talking in circles about the same thing week after week. Just now this week, you've thrown the turf thing into it.
Yeah, I mean, look, Kentucky this year, talking about gamesmanship and home field and everything, Kentucky coming into this series of South Carolina was 13-9 at home. So not like all these things are doing is some phenomenal home field advantage, right?
Yep.
Other teams have found a way to win in Lexington, Kentucky this year. So, again, I understand it. No, the easiest thing in the world is to find stuff, right? Crowd, this or that, gamesmanship. They're doing this, they're doing that. They're 9 times they lost on their home field.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, this year's version of the baseball team, unfortunately, is just not going the way any of us were hoping it was going to go. And when we look at it, certain areas of this baseball team just don't stack up to win a lot of games in the SEC. Mm-hmm. Paul Maneri's first year. Okay, man, you've seen the new SEC up in center, up close. Next year, if you decide you want to come back for the rodeo for year 2, you got a better idea what's going on. You go and when you hear Maneri talk, he's coming back. Okay, you've seen it now. Now you got to go get the players. Yep. You've seen it. Now go get the players.
And again, that's what we have to keep going back to. Like, all right, hope you figured it out. And hope you're ready to go out there and make those moves this offseason, use NIL, whatever you have to, because the idea that you had in your head of, I have a team that's going to compete in the SEC, was proven wrong pretty quickly.
Yeah, and this team has kind of gone down this path all year. Just, again, they're not a bad team because they've beaten pretty much everybody that they should beat all year, right?
Yep.
But they're just not a top 25 team because they've lost almost every game to top 25 talent.
And that's the frustrating thing of being so close but not getting it done. Same thing with men's basketball. If you're getting beat by 30 points a game or getting run ruled every single time, like, all right, we're just not talented. But when you're coming close, when you're in it, when you're down by 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th, or is going into the bottom of the 8th, and then it gets blown open, you lose the game by 6 runs, that's what's frustrating because you're right there. You just can't close the deal. You brought up the stat the other day of how many games they were within a run or 2 and lost pretty much all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are 10 games this year. Either they had the lead going into the 7th inning or they were either tied down by a run or 2, and that's 10 losses this year in that fashion. Hey, Williams-Brice Stadium for golf. Your chance to play golf inside, Upper Deck Golf coming to Columbia May 9th and 10th. Your chance to get a VIP 4 package. Just go to our 1075 The Game Facebook page, upload a picture of you inside Willie B. Winners will be notified on May 6th. Today, April 28th. It's the greatest day in the history of the world, Tyler. We'll talk about that next here on the Halftime Show on The Game. Greatest day in the history of the world. April 28th here on the Halftime Show. Terry Ford, Tyler Head, David Dare as we hang out. And usually this is when we go through the entire greatest day in the history of the world, and then Dave pops up at the end of it and go, hey, did you guys know about this? And we talked about it like 2 minutes before.
Yeah, it's kind of typical.
It's become like a semi-regular feature when Dave pops up. I know, did you guys talk about this? Yeah, we did, Dave. Thanks.
He's just making sure we're aware.
That's all. Okay, old school. Wow. 1931. Program for women athletes was approved for the 1932 Olympics track and field events. A program for females to compete, I guess, in the 1932 Olympics was approved. Think about that. A couple Hall of Famers on this day did some stuff. 1956, some guy named Frank Robinson of the Cincinnati Reds hit his first career home run, hit 586 home runs in his career. One of the most underrated superstars in the history of the game was Frank Robinson. Won the Triple Crown, was an MVP in the American and National League. So Frank Robinson on this day in 1956. 1961, the Braves, when they were in Milwaukee. Future Hall of Famer Warren Spahn throws his second career no-hitter, 41 years old. I believe Spahn won 363 games back when it mattered, your pitcher's one-loss record.
Truist Park is cool and all, but one of the cool features of Turner Field was when they had the murals of certain players on the outfield wall. Warren Spahn was one of them. Him, Dale Murphy, Hank Aaron, I forget who else.
Probably Eddie Matthews.
Yeah, that was always cool. They had those guys on the outfield wall, and again, to do that 41, by the way, and that's not today's 41.
No.
He probably looked like he was 70 at that point in time.
65. And those teams, I mean, the Milwaukee Braves were really good. And what was an old school baseball folks remember it? It was I remember reading about it when I was a kid. They have basically a two-man rotation. This guy named Johnny Sane and Warren Spahn. And the old dumb saying was, Spahn and Sane and pray for rain, so you didn't have to put any other pitchers out there. Warren Spahn was phenomenal through his career. Greatest day in the history of the world here on the Halftime Show on the Game. 1987, the NBA awards expansion franchises to Charlotte and Miami in 1988, Minneapolis and Orlando in 1989. I remember we had a thing on this before when they were putting it together, and we discussed these franchises.
Yeah, some of those have more success than others.
The only one out of the four that's won an NBA championship is Miami.
Yeah.
Orlando played in the finals. Minnesota got to the conference finals, and Charlotte was good for a bit. But, yeah, Miami far and away because of Pat Riley.
Charlotte's about as far from a championship threat as ever at this point.
Yeah. Were they mathematically eliminated like the second week of the season?
Oh, it's the opening day tip-off. All right, season's over.
It's just, unreal. It starts with bad ownership, typically. And, look, Michael Jordan is not the owner anymore, but the Jordan era will not be known for its greatness at all.
Again, just because you're great on the field, on the court, doesn't mean you're great in the ownership role.
Exactly. 1987, some guy named Vinny Testaverde was the first pick of the NFL draft by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It's funny, Vinny Testaverde is looked at as a guy who some people would say underachiever, someone would say bust. I would say this, he might not have been as great as a lot of people thought he was going to be coming out of college at Miami. But if you look at his career numbers, he hung around so long, he threw for like over 40,000 yards in his career. I think the Jets got the AFC Championship game. He was their quarterback, got to the playoffs as he was a quarterback in Cleveland. So even though he might not have been a Hall of Famer, it wasn't like he was I don't think you could say a total bust at all. I think he was just had a workmanlike NFL career. First pick overall today in 1987. Also, greatest day in the history of the world. 1992, video replay is used to decide a playoff game for the first time in the NHL. In Game 6 of the Detroit-Minnesota Division semifinal, Sergei Fedorov of the Red Wings appeared to have hit the crossbar behind goalie John Casey during overtime. The Stars iced the puck immediately, but the referee, Rob Schick, calls for a video review. The replay shows the puck enters the goal just below the crossbar, caroms off the frame. The goal is awarded. Red Wings win 1-0 to tie the series.
I'm surprised they could have figured that out with how pixelated that video must have been back then. It wasn't exactly HD back in 1992.
It was HD.
It's like, all right, what is that black blob? Is that the puck?
I'm telling you, that was the thing about and hockey on TV is better today because of HD. But back in the old days, one of the worst things about watching hockey, you couldn't keep up with the puck.
Yeah, you didn't know where it was. You
Didn't
just
know
had
where it
to
was.
see where the guy, what direction they were heading.
They were swinging the stick at something.
All right,
And-
well, I think you just hit it. I don't know.
Well, the funniest thing is Fox got the NHL for a bit, and they put I think it was a blue streak.
Yeah, I
on the
remember
puck.
this. That was very short lived, but
Yeah.
like
They
I get what
tried.
they're going
They
for.
tried, man.
It's kind of funny to look back on now because it's so hokey, but yeah, help the visibility out a little bit.
Trying something, because again, that's the worst part about watching hockey on TV was trying to follow the puck. Then I've always said this: there's certain events that are better when you're there. Like football, I mean, if you're standing on the sidelines of a football game, you really truly get the idea. Oh my God, this is violent.
Sure.
Baseball, if you sit like in the box seats where you could like, especially these new stadiums where they're built and angled, and your vision, your lines of vision, you can see just how hard a pitcher throws. Right?
Mm-hmm.
You go, good Lord, I couldn't hit that to save my life. Hockey's a game you don't truly appreciate how physical and tough and just how skilled these guys are until you sit actually in an arena and watch a hockey game.
Yep.
Then you go, oh, well, I'll tell you, it's like NASCAR.
Yeah.
I think I've said this to you, and I respect your love of racing.
Thank you.
If I need to take a nap, I'll turn on a NASCAR race.
Sure.
But if I'm at a NASCAR race, it is one of the coolest things to be at a NASCAR
Yeah,
race.
go stand on the fence.
Being there is just, again, you can't hear for 3 days.
Sure.
But being there, I mean, you get to see everything. You smell everything. You watch everything. And those cars, when you're there in person,
Pretty darn fast.
pretty fast. So anyway, all right. Also, greatest day in the history of the world. 2003, this is my favorite tennis player growing up, Andre Agassi. Captured the world #1 ranking in 2003, become the oldest top-ranked male in history. He was 33 years old at the time. And Agassi went from all that cool hair to no hair. Andre Agassi, this day in 2003. 2007. You want to talk about screwing up a draft? On this day in 2007, the Oakland Raiders took Jamarcus Russell as the first pick overall.
I think his name, him and Ryan Leaf, are the two most synonymous names when we think of busts, right? And Ryan Leaf obviously had off the field issues as well. Jamarcus Russell just didn't care. He just literally did not.
Stole that money.
The famous story about them handing him the blank videotape. Hey, what plays did you like from that? Liked them all, coach? No. Which one specifically? They're all great. Bro, there was nothing on that tape.
Great story. That dude, you think he ever opened a playbook?
Probably not. And again, this is something that we see a lot where some guys through high school, through college, can just get away with being the best athlete on the field. Don't have to think about it. Don't have to go through the process of it. Well, guess what? When you're playing the highest level of football, everybody's a great athlete. Everybody is on this next level. And if you don't put in the work, if you don't study, if you don't take it seriously, you're going to flame out. And Jamarcus Russell's a perfect example of that.
And, you know, sometimes, to your point, the worst thing in the world is to be that athlete. Because you don't really, I'm not going to say all of them, but some of them just don't learn work ethic because they don't need it.
You didn't have to.
They don't need it.
Look at Johnny Manziel. Johnny Manziel got away in college by just being a really good athlete and throwing to a future Hall of Famer in Mike Evans. And guess what? Nobody pushed him to have to work hard. When he gets to the Browns, like, hey, learn this playbook. Screw that. I'm going to go party.
It's like, dude, have you seen my video?
Exactly.
I'll be at the bar.
It's like, wait, what's reading a defense?
I don't need to read no
gotta go
stinking
through
defense.
Progressions? What is that?
Oh, Progressive. I got that insurance. Yeah, thanks.
It's like, no,
I love
Johnny.
her. Love Flo.
Exactly. So, yeah, if you don't put in the work, you're not going to cut it in the NFL.
You're just not. And eventually it gets you. It's like that really smart kid in school never had to study.
Sure.
He gets to
Gets to
college.
Oh, I have to study now.
Oh, my God. His head explodes. So, yeah, and Jamarcus Russell, you know, I'm better than everybody, dude. Watch me. This day in 2011, Cam Newton, first pick overall by the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah. As again, somebody that was not a fan of Auburn in college, we all made the joke. He took a pay cut to go to the
Yes, he
NFL,
did.
which, by the way, $180,000 for Cam Newton, a steal by today's standards.
I'll tell you this really quick. I had a guy when I worked in Boise. There was a guy that owned this bar restaurant who became buds with the station, and he was a huge Razorback fan. And he gave me this printout of this big, long report
Uh-huh.
on the FBI and what they really knew about Cam Newton and all that stuff that was going on at Auburn.
Really?
I have it somewhere. I have to bring it in. You'd love it. It's like fascinating. I don't know if it's all true, any of it's true, but it's fascinating. All right, Firehouse Subtext the hour 803-404-6100. That's next here on the halftime show on the Game. Firehouse Subtext the hour 803-404-6100, and then we'll do our handoff with Jay from the post-game show. We got there on the text.
Is that all I'm known for? Just Jay from the postgame show?
Well, you know, everybody knows you so well now since you've been here
Well,
for so long.
are you Elijah's assistant coach or
Yeah, what are you?
co-OC? How does that work?
As long as it's working, I'm his agent.
There you go.
Smart move.
That's where the money's made right there.
Hey, That's the way to go.
I know what's up.
Because you know what? You know, this play, who knows, whatever Elijah might be able to get an NIL deal off this play.
I mean, the way you figure it, if I was the one who put the call in, like, hey, I've got a client.
Well, really,
That's true.
Look, to be fair, you made the call to get the start in the first place.
I mean, again, as I said to the kids, the only dumb question is a question not asked. So you may as well ask the question. So I was like, I have a client. My client has an interest in your program, and he thinks he can be of benefit.
Let me show you one of his play calls.
Let's put it together, and lo and behold, averaging 29 yards per play.
And what is now? Typically, it's what, 3%?
Typically.
I think you should go 6%. Without you, none of this happened.
We'll leave these business negotiations to others.
So if you're going to be an agent, though, you got to start dressing in suits and wearing sunglasses indoors.
You just got to wear sunglasses on the back of your neck.
That's right.
I already wear my croquis to have my sunglasses up front. I can't do it on the back.
You don't want to put it on the back of your neck?
No, I can't. I'm not that.
That screams.
I'm not that cool.
Yeah, I have another word for that. It's not cool. I got another word for that.
I'm not that cool.
Say.
Now, this is about as dressed up as I like to get.
You got
For those who can't see me, I have a button-down shirt.
Button-down shirt today, brother.
And jeans. Yeah,
Look at you. You dressing up for the video, or for the streaming?
He's dressing up to talk to Coach Maneri at 5.
That's right, 5:15. Coach Maneri today.
Whatever.
That's right.
Whatever. Yeah, it's all for the video.
That's right, just for the video stream.
For the video.
Because you from day one.
Love it.
That's right.
Nobody lined up for it like Jay Phillips.
Big fan.
Oh, we all used to look like slobs for the video.
Yeah, now
stream
look
came
at us.
along.
I got
Now
my
look at us.
hairpiece on, my makeup. I'm ready to roll. What do you got on the Firehouse subtext line there, boss?
Marshall says, this is a reference to Shador. Sounds like the teams that his dad says he wasn't going to play for. He literally joked his way through the interviews. Whether you want to play for these teams or not, you do have to demonstrate that you can behave like a pro. I don't care who you are.
I mean, look, again, to me, and I know you guys will talk about it today, Jay, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze at the end of the day. I said this before, if Shador Sanders played like Cam Newton and was built like Cam Newton, all this stuff doesn't matter.
Of course not.
Problem is, Shador Sanders was a good player who didn't have any wow things going on for him. In a bad quarterback draft, he's probably going to be in the first round, somewhere in the probably bottom of the first round, right?
Yeah.
Like he was projected by some people. Yeah. But then once all this stuff came out about the interviews and some of this other stuff that went on, to go with the fact you're not Cam Newton, guess what?
I was surprised it, went down to the 5th round, but I was not at all surprised that he wasn't a first-round pick. There were no first-round grades. B, you hit on the main point, Terry. This was not a good quarterback class. I mean, it just wasn't, and that's okay. We talked about it on Friday. 17 of the first round picks were linemen. That's what the NFL saw this year, and the NFL realized that's what we need this year.
Oh, you know what happened? They watched the Eagles win the line of scrimmage and win a Super Bowl, and they went, you know what? We got to get the line of scrimmage.
It's time to get back into the trenches, and like the Saints. Instead of taking a quarterback at 9, they said, you know what? Regardless of who's going to take our snaps, let's protect him. Yeah, and they went out and got one of the best offensive linemen in the country.
Because we do get the right quarterback, we'll have the infrastructure in place to where, it's like